horror movie?
What?
Let's make a horror movie?
I wonder what it would be like then. Brains in jars, I'm going to guess.
We're a long way for God now, son.
Slowly
Coming out of his mouth.
crawling out
Yeah,
of his
that's
mouth,
fucking
stretching
cool.
his skin.
Nice. So he doesn't save them, the bridge goes down, people die, and he's like, oh well, job done. Clarence?
Can we try take two again?
Yeah. All I'm saying is maybe don't trust sentient hats to make life-changing decisions, but...
Thanks for your correspondence, Jatos.
Hello? Oh. No, go. That's alright.
Hello.
Hello. This is, well, my name's Darren.
I'm Bruce.
Right, of course you are, mate. And this is Let's Make an Horror Movie podcast.
Why not?
Yeah, thanks. Great. Welcome to Let's Make a Horror Movie podcast. Thanks, Darren and Bruce.
Booth looking pretty full today.
Yeah, that's John,
It's a
folks.
bit crowded behind the glass.
Wait to everyone watching the live stream. You gonna give everyone a wave?
No.
Well, all right. I'm Dave. And this.
Yeah, I'm John. It's the substitute teacher again.
There you go. And this is Let's Make a Horror Movie podcast, which is the monthly horror movie podcast. Serious about horror, silly about everything else.
Fair enough.
John's nodding along. That's good enough for me. Yeah. So
What? I'm saying words.
yes, and to be honest, that is the bar. That is the bar passed.
Hopefully.
Well, I tried a mute co-host for a while. I tried 6 actually, but what was weird is that adding them exponentially, it made no difference to their input on the podcast.
Yeah, well, I guess what's weirder is you still got them all here.
That's true. Well,
I mean,
so you buy them
you're paying a lot in expenses.
They come in packs of 6, and I just thought it's cheaper than sending them back, or less hassle than sending them back in a way.
I guess so. The hotel bill's pretty high.
Sort of fast fashion of co-hosts. Yeah, mute co-hosts.
Yeah. Just add water.
Anyway, look, thanks to Bruce and Darren in the booth, in there with Tony. Tony, I'm sure will say hello later on. This is the monthly horror movie podcast. Myself and John. Normally, every episode, one of us will pitch a horror movie pitch that they've thought up and written down, and then said out of their mouth to the other one. The other one will feedback on it, react, and so on and so forth. And then next episode, we get any feedback from the audience. John, anything to add to that? Pretty good summary.
No, that's pretty good, mate. I mean, we generally go through a bit of culture.
That's true. Oh, well, you're moving into the act breakdown. You're right.
Oh, have I broken it? Have I broken your little structure? Sorry.
Well, yeah. I mean, this whole thing was very, very carefully scripted, as you
the
know.
mutes were really tapping me on the shoulder there.
Yeah.
It was a bit. I didn't know why, so maybe that makes a bit of sense.
Would you like to inform our lovely audience how the?
Jeez, there's a bit of pressure.
Give it a bash.
I'll give it a go. Right, okay. Act 1, we're going to search for any feedback that we've got.
Don't have any.
General bit of introduction and banter.
Sorry, don't have any, no. But yes, bit banter, yeah.
Act 2, we'll go through cultural highlights of the last month. What's happening? Pretty quiet on the political
Very
front, so
quiet.
that might be a quick one.
Yeah.
Act 3's a pitch. That's why you're here. That's what we're all salivating for. That's what we're just raring to go.
That's the juicy part of the podcast.
And then Act 4 is a bit of feedback on the pitch. Maybe search for a title of the next hit. Let's Make a Horror Movie film.
Movie, yeah. Let's make a horror movie. And on that bombshell...
Yeah, I was trying to avoid that.
Yeah. Lean into it, John. I've got something to talk
yeah?
about on this exact topic in Act 1, so let's
good.
make a horror movie.
Let's crack on.
Tony? Alright, fellas, yeah, welcome to episode 31. Glad to see you guys back in the old Abbott. Sister Act 2, innit? Welcome to Act 1.
Interesting. But okay,
Sister Act 2 was called
okay.
Back in the Habit. It was. Don't know
Well,
why.
I would never doubt his movie knowledge. I'm just interested. Where are the other guys?
I don't know.
I can't see them.
I can't see them, and you wouldn't be hearing them. So, in fairness, oh, you mean Darren and Bruce, not the mutes?
Yeah.
No,
the mute. No.
that's
I
true.
can see the mutes
Actually,
there.
yeah. I don't know where they're going. They stepped out for a cigarette. Maybe they'll be back to introduce Act 2 and beyond, perhaps.
Oh, I think this format's getting overly complicated, David.
Mate, Tony he turns the light on, it goes green, and I start talking. He turns it red, and I stop talking. I mean, everything else is
So
Tony.
I talk until you put me back in the box.
Exactly.
That's it. Yep,
Exactly. It's
absolutely.
like that episode of The X-Files. Anyway, yeah, Act 1. So normally this is feedback, but we don't have any feedback because we've done 2.
Oh, I got feedback. I got a raven.
Oh, you got a raven.
Yeah, I got a raven from OJ. So he's just to give it an update. So
Nice. Dark wings, dark words.
yeah, well, last month he was obviously hanging around the storm drains and disappeared, and then he made it home. But he's just sent me a raven now, so he's off to Old Town. So he's going to go and forge a link in his chain.
Oh. Okay, nice. Well, that can take decades.
How long can an embroidery chain take you to forge? I mean, really, there's not that many stitches.
Was one of them embroidery? Was one of the links?
Yeah, I think so. I think that was the hardest one.
Was
yeah,
it?
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. You're right. I think it probably was the hardest one.
I mean, I would have gone for magic and all the sort of,
Yeah.
the medicine and all that sort of stuff first. So I guess
But
maybe
embroidery.
maybe it's not the hardest one. Maybe it's just the last one that gets done because it's so bloody boring.
No, you're right. I mean, I think a lot of it is very similar to how the Scouts is set up.
Interestingly, yeah, if you would think you should go for embroidery first in the Scouts, because then you could actually sew the other badges on.
Exactly. If you
But-
don't do embroidery, then all the badges you just got to keep them in your pocket, I guess, or
Well, that's right. They jangle around. You might lose them.
hold them to your chests.
Sellotape them to your forehead so
Yeah.
you don't lose them. Yeah.
Well, that's what I used to do. But then I was never
Well.
officially a member of the Scouts.
Wow, let's not get into that story.
Yeah, exactly. It was all about never letting them see you. That was the
There's
real
limited
trick.
liabilities on
Yeah.
that one that hasn't expired yet.
Do you
so
see the
I'd
blue
maybe
flashing
drop that.
lights? You just keep running. Oh yeah, you were talking about calling us saying let's make a horror movie. But I realized the other day that our actual podcast title could read two ways. So it could read like let's make a horror movie podcast, right?
Oh.
Or it could read let's make a horror movie podcast.
Oh no, I definitely read it that way.
I always intended it to be let's make a horror movie podcast, but it could be read by laymen, if you will, as let's make a
Uninitiated.
horror movie podcast,
Yeah.
which would essentially be a podcast about trying to make another podcast about horror movies.
Well, but that interesting. That's one of our sister
This is
podcasts.
the podcast, exactly. And I thought, oh, it's come full circle. Yeah.
Yeah, well, that's why I tried to avoid it in the initial introduction.
Yeah,
there.
yeah.
I don't want to cross brand.
So we started this whole endeavor by doing a let's make a horror movie podcast before the first episode of LMAHMpod, right? Because
That went back for years.
It's like making of,
Yeah.
wasn't it? And so, yeah, there was 2 seasons before we even got to the first episode of
What are we
LMAHMpod.
going to do with the mics?
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. How do you press record?
Do we sit inside? Do we sit outside? You
Oh,
know?
outside was a nightmare. Those pilots were a difficult situation. Yeah. Why are we on a train?
I know.
That was a difficult episode, wasn't it?
I actually really like trains. That was largely the reason. But yeah, terribly impractical in the end, as it turned out. But you live, you learn. Before we even properly crack on, John, I should say that today I am celebrating.
Oh, what are you celebrating, Dave?
I'm celebrating the 300th day of me wearing nothing but a Papa Shango costume for charity. Do you remember Papa Shango? He was a WWF wrestler before they changed.
Just thought that's what you looked like.
Oh, you thought that's what I looked like? Well, I have it 300 days.
Yeah.
It
I
has
just thought
been.
it was your thing.
Yeah. I mean, you could easily think I'd sort of evolved into that, I think, from the time
Living the character.
before. But so I'm celebrating that. Obviously, it's been quite. I mean, again, we cover this quite a lot in the other podcasts about making this podcast because, of course, it presented a lot of challenges. So it's very much like the behind the scenes. It's the sort of it takes two to this podcast, isn't it?
Yeah,
Or-
it's it's interesting because it's all that kind of why did I choose to dress as Spawn for the whole time? And it's
Yeah, but I think what's quite
Yeah.
cool is that it matched because we both had a bit of black and red in the costumes, and I think subliminally or subconsciously rather, even that was probably at play. But anyway, so I'm celebrating 300 days because that's what everyone sponsored me for.
Congratulations.
Yeah, obviously all that money is going to Adventure Dentures. So
Oh,
Yeah.
great. Yeah. This year's charity.
yeah, so all the senior citizens will be able to go bungee jumping, abseiling, all of that.
Oh, sorry, it was Adventure Dentures. Sorry.
And what did you think it was?
Adventurous dentures,
Oh,
which is a
right.
sort of like we get the sort of novelty dentures
Yes.
to replace the normal teeth. So you get kind of sharp teeth or bitey teeth or teeth that play a tune.
They're actually one of the
Um,
competitors.
sorry.
Stiff competition for Adventure Dentures.
Yeah, a lot less morally sound actually. To be fair, so yeah, we probably did choose the
They're
right
more
one.
fun. They are more fun and they're more accessible. So they are, if you're looking for Christmas gifts this year, I mean, we're coming up for Christmas now. Adventurous Dentures, easily, you can order them online. They come to your house. But Adventure Dentures, as we know, because they've been the LMAHMpod charity now for 300 days, they will allow octogenarians, nonagenarians, is it centenarians? Centenarians?
Why not?
Yeah, why
Why
not?
not?
Why not? May as well fucking be.
There's not enough of them to argue, mate, so yeah, just say what you like.
There's only a handful, and Adventure Dentures has promised to take them all on a holiday to New Zealand to do one of the world's biggest bungee jumps.
Hey.
Um,
No downsides.
Well, there's no downsides, and actually we have booked fewer plane seats home. In all in all
That's
seriousness,
just smart business, Dave.
We're not
that's
fucking
sensible.
idiots, John. We're not idiots.
Yeah. There's going to be an attrition rate. I mean, that's just
Yeah.
Come on.
So anyway, there's that.
How do you want to go out? You know, how do you want to go out?
Exactly.
You're much more likely to be killed by adventurous dentures anyway. So if you look at statistically speaking,
In fact, what's interesting is that both adventurous dentures and adventure dentures, they're largely indestructible. So they are likely to survive you, if that makes sense.
oh, definitely. I don't think adventurous dentures biodegrade at all. It's not been measured so far.
You can maybe pass them on to the next generation, is all I'm saying. And if, before you take that last fall, maybe stuff any other valuables in those dentures, because they'll survive the impact.
Bound to survive.
They'll survive
Yeah,
the
I mean,
impact.
they're like cockroaches.
It's like a black
Yeah.
box. So,
Absolutely. Little time capsule.
yeah.
Big selling point, actually, of adventurous dentures.
Yeah, well, the indestructibility.
Yeah, and that a chance to pass on to the future generations through your teeth. Everything that was important to you. Like a Blue Peter time capsule that doesn't go kind of all weird and rotten.
That's true. Well, one of the... I shouldn't really say this because there's only a certain amount of time that adventure dentures are booked, but one of the latest products that they are actually looking at doing in their commercial line as opposed to their charitable arm is you can actually have the ashes of your elderly loved ones put into the individual teeth of your adventure dentures. Or their adventure dentures, depending on how you want to do it. Some people like to wear it in their own mouth, some people like to put them on the mantelpiece with, Uncle Bobby and Auntie Sue.
Well, it's those choices that make them such a uniquely placed company in this sort of product line,
I mean, they're a challenger brand. They're disrupting the business. They're disrupting a lot of the funeral business, that whole area.
They're disrupting a lot of lunchtimes in the care homes. So you're celebrating. I'm commiserating, actually, at the moment. I'm having a little sort of commiseratory drink because it's the potential death of alternative facts.
That's true.
I do live in alternative facts an awful lot more than I realised before it was popularised a few years ago.
That's true. I remember because you were the king of Burkina Faso for many years.
Oh yeah. I'm next in line for the Spanish throne.
Yes, I
still maintain that. That's true to me.
Yeah, that is yours. Do you know what? No one wrote in to correct us on whether it was Thesaurus or Thesaurus.
Did they not? It's because I told them not
That's
to, because I
true.
know what the answer is. That was to be fair. Let's just...
Well, they listened.
I think I crushed that. I hope I crushed that in the spirit in which I tried to.
They listened to you, John, and en masse decided to not get involved in that.
Silent majority stayed silent. I'm desperately looking at the booth.
Do you want to get Bruce and Darren back?
Hello. Welcome to Act 2.
You right? Yeah, right. Yeah, I don't know where Tony's gone, Bruce. I've had a look for him myself, actually, but he might be outside having a bag. Oh yeah, Act 2, is it?
A lot of buttons over there.
Are we recording?
Don't touch that.
Is that light beam we're on?
No, don't.
Yeah, you're on, guys. You're on. Cheers, Act 2.
Shit, the lights are out now. That's not going well.
We get the good guests for the interviews. The guests that we get for the booth are, let's be honest, they're not great. They're international, often. They are often international. But
It might be one of them Make-A-Wish things, Dave.
Oh.
It might be one of them sort of...
It maybe is that, yeah. Well, Tony does the
I want
organising.
to press the buttons in the booth. Yeah, listen, let's not judge it.
He does all the charity work. He's the one that got us all of that stuff with Adventure Dentures. So,
Yeah.
anyway, Act 2.
And Adventurous Dentures is why he's so clear,
That's true. Enunciates very well. Right, Act 2.
Older than he looks.
This is the part of the podcast where normally we would talk about cultural things we've done in the last month, John. So,
Yeah.
let's start with Horror Christmas, which was Frightfest. We had a second bite. For anyone that doesn't know or isn't in the UK, Frightfest is the horror festival in London, normally once a year in August, but because of COVID, we got 2 bites of the cherry this year, which was very lucky, and it's fucking amazing. So I'll try and be quick, because I watched a lot. Well, I watched about 15 movies, and that was skipping 2, because I had to walk the dog and use like the bathroom and eat things. So I missed 2 movies across like 4 days.
Sounds like weakness.
Yeah, it was weakness. So here you go. So there was a movie called Held, which sort of mystery thriller. A couple's ailing marriage was put to the test when they're held hostage in an isolated vacation rental by an unseen voice that commands their every move. Pretty cool, that one, I thought. A good sort of opening day, tense fest, strong female leads. I enjoyed that.
Okay.
There's a few that I'll give an extra shout out to. One of them is called The Pale Door, which was directed by Aaron B. Kuntz. It's fucking fantastic. It's a Western horror.
Oh, nice.
Train robbery goes wrong. Two brothers, one of whom leads a gang of cowboys, must survive the night in a ghost town inhabited by a coven of witches.
Dude, that sounds alright, man. Like, as non-horror guy, that sounds alright.
Really fun.
I tell you, that's something about horror. It's something that horror has that no other genre seems to have, is it can basically just bolt itself onto any other genre. You know.
One that I'll give another shout out to is called Broil, Broil, directed by Edward Drake. This was kind of like a fresh take on a vampire movie, but a really good one. Again, I really enjoyed it. It felt really different from anything like it, and it had some real fucking gruesome ideas in it, which were deliciously done. Do you ever see the South Park episode with Scott Tenorman?
No, mate. A few might probably say no South Park. I haven't seen it in bloody years.
Yeah,
so
it's an old one. It's an old one where Cartman, he's got an enemy called Scott Tenorman, and he feeds Scott Tenorman his own parents. Tells him that this is what's happening. Starts crying, and Cartman starts licking his tears up and saying how nice they taste. Broil has a large amount of that kind of fun in it.
Wow. Okay. Not one for
but
me.
That's the thing. It's really not gory, but it is got some ideas in it. So it's
ideas scare me more than anything.
It's a lot less explicit than you might think, but I really enjoyed it. There is one called For the Sake of Vicious, directed by Gabriel Carrer, I want to say. I think this is a Canadian movie, if I remember rightly from the blurb. But it's basically a nurse gets home from... in fact, I fucking love this movie, but it's not going to be for everybody. But it literally starts with a nurse getting home to find somebody in her house, a man, but who's brought another man there, and they're having it out, these two blokes. One of them's knocked out cold and injured and whatever, and they're obviously enemies, but the enemy that isn't damaged is like, right, you fix him up. And then she does, and then they end up staying in the house, and then stuff gets revealed, and then more stuff gets revealed, and it just keeps going. It keeps you guessing. You have no idea where it's going. It's really, really tense. It's really, really exciting. And when it hits the gas, it goes fucking nuts. And for a fright, it's exactly the kind of thing I wanted to see. It's the kind of movie that every Fright Fest, I feel like, needs. Any horror movie festival needs a movie which just lets fucking loose at some point and goes mad. And this does that in spades. It's hand-to-hand combat throughout the house, in this nurse's house, and it's just fucking insane. And there's a lot of people, and there's a lot of people getting killed, and there's a lot of really gruesome, brutal fighting, and it is incredibly enjoyable. If you like that kind of thing, which I do. So I absolutely love that movie. It has a really... quite a dark conceit at the heart of it, which I'm not going to tell you because I don't want to get into the real plot of the film. But it's if you don't mind that, it's just I really loved it. Yeah.
So what's the name of that one?
It's called For the Sake of Vicious.
Just gonna pop that on the old blocked list.
Couple other big thumbs up, and then I'll literally rattle through the others to say that they were good. Obviously, Relic, it's getting a lot of press at the moment, rightly so. It is a phenomenally well made and acted movie. It looks incredible, but really the reason it's so successful is, I think, because it takes a look at the horror of what it's like to have an older relative lose their mental faculties. So and sort of.
I think that's got it's getting a wider press, that isn't it? Really?
Yeah, it's really, really good. You have got Neil Marshall's latest. Neil Marshall did Dog Soldiers and a few other cracking movies. That's called The Reckoning. That was not for you, John. Absolutely not for you. I'm glad when I texted you that you couldn't actually make it to join me on that one, because when I was watching it I thought, yeah, no, he wouldn't like this. But it has, Pertwee, it has Pertwee in it, and he's fucking incredible. Goes without saying. He plays the Witchfinder General, so he's absolutely, he's lapping it up. He's incredible. the lead star in it, Charlotte Kirk. She's really, really good in it too. But it's basically all torture. It is largely implicit. Like it's very careful not to be visually hurt. But it doesn't, as a minute ago you just said, it doesn't need to be, because you see everything up to the thing happening. So you see all the sort of machinery, in the environment and stuff. So it is grim, but I really liked it. It's got some great ideas in it again, and it does it's got a nice foot in this sort of supernatural. Again, loved it. Big recommendation for me, but hesitant for you as a horror recent convert, if you like.
Nope. Let's not. Don't call it before it's happened,
okay.
Mate. Come on now. Count the votes.
Okay, bunch of other movies then I'll rattle through. Origin Unknown, Mexican, another vampire movie. Again, really well done. A lot of style, flair, excitement, and fun. It's like a cartel movie mixed with vampires. Sacrifice by Andy Collier and starring Barbara Crampton. She absolutely nails it, as do the whole cast in this. I think the other lead lady is called Sophie Stevens, so she's absolutely incredible in this movie. You would enjoy this one, John. I think this, it's no gore or violence, really, but it's got that sort of sense of dread that all kind of Lovecraftian-infused stuff has, and they do it really well. Blood Harvest, that was Witches, again, also good. The Banishing, I mean, I'm not doing them justice, but haunted house stuff, great. The Owners, British horror movie with Maisie
Williams?
Yep. And also Sylvester McCoy. That's good. Actually really grim, and it ends with one of the grimmest things you will see in terms of conceptual horror. It has a horrific concept to leave you with right at the end, which will stay with you.
One for you, sickos.
Yeah, one for the people who really want to be fucked over right at the end of a film. That's a good one for you. It's good though. Don't Look Back was the new one by some of the people that made Final Destination movies. It was pretty good. But a bunch of people just watch and or film somebody being beaten up and killed, and then they all start to die, and it's sort of a bit fine.
That was inverted commas.
Well, yeah, sorry. Sort of a bit Final Destination-y in that sense, but all is not what it seems. The Sinners, which was more of a murder mystery, high school girls murder mystery. Very good, though. Really like that. A lot of great performances in it. Kept you guessing. And I think the last one here is Honeydew, which is absolutely not one for you, John. 100% no. But for horror lovers out there, if you're looking to see something recent that will make you go, oh, I haven't seen anything like that in a while, then this is the film for you.
Well, come on now. That's interesting. So I'm fascinated in my own limitations.
Right.
So what if it is not for me in your sort of reckoning there?
First of all, I'll say it's really tense, and the soundscape and the score are really impressive and really lend it a really sort of horribly awkward, eerie feel. Reminiscent of the Texas Chainsaw Massacre. I don't know if you've ever seen the original Texas Chainsaw.
Yep.
Where it's got some real weird soundscape stuff going on, which works perfectly. So it's very reminiscent of that. Basically, it's a classic two people get stuck in the middle of nowhere, and actually it's a very similar setup. So two people instead of a group of kids go to a house in the middle of nowhere for help with their car, and all is not what it seems. But I don't want to get spoilers for anyone that is about to watch it.
Just give me themes.
There is a daughter being kept in a box who doesn't have any limbs. Right. See where this is going?
Oh, right. Okay.
They have all the meat is infected, so they eat people, but they keep them alive and take bits off them, and then use medical practice to keep them going whilst they keep taking bits off them.
Highly skilled.
You can see it's really fucking grim. It's got some great stuff in it. In terms of, there's some scenes in the house around the kitchen. For anyone that's seen this, they'll remember. Look, I've included it in this list because I would recommend to other horror fans, it's something that you probably want to see. I wouldn't recommend it to you or people that were a bit on the fence about some
normal.
horror.
Yeah. Yeah. That's okay. That was good. That's interesting. You've obviously missed out the pièce de la résistance, my first ever. I had to pay for this. Actually, pay my own money, which is, I mean, thankfully we're making a lot of money off this podcast. So, Adventure Dentures and Adventurous Dentures are both excellent.
Yeah.
In fact, well, hang on. Have I turned? No, I've kind of.
Adventure Dentures is technically a charity, but they do have a commercial arm because they do. The commercial arm is the thing that does the you can put your ashes in the teeth.
I just think I might have given away some of our secret funding.
Yeah.
There. But anyway, I paid real money to see Nights Before Christmas, which was interesting.
The Nights Before Christmas.
Because it's a live screening, I missed the very start of it, so you had to catch me up a little bit on the first sort of 5 minutes there. I just had to get the kids to bed.
All right.
I'd missed the very, very start, and then I came in at the in a sort of scene in a cafe between a daughter and a father.
Yes, so you're right. We watched. It was the final movie, I think, on the Sunday night of Frightfest that we chose.
So you're gonna finish strong. I mean, that's what I was thinking.
It's directed by Paul Tanter, and all I'm gonna say before letting you talk, John, is that what you missed before you joined the movie was that the movie opens in a mental asylum with a sort of doctor being strapped to an operating table kind of thing, and a psycho guy dressed as Santa Claus and his girlfriend dressed as Mrs. Claus, like, kind of monologuing at him to give you a bit of exposition about their psychos. They're in a psycho hospital and they're escaping and everything's burning down around them, and the psychos are in charge of the asylum. That's what you basically missed. Then it cuts to whoever the girl was that you saw talking to her dad, and we get the exposition there that she is on her own in a new town. He's come to find her because I guess she's changed her name and cut communications with the family. And there's loads of previous stuff alluded to, like this family have been through something which has caused her to change her name and move away. And that's basically where you joined us, I think.
Yeah, so I mean, it really started strong and just kept on going from there then, clearly. I mean, it was... I don't know if it was horror comedy, but it certainly came across as horror comedy. I hope that was the intention, because it was so over the top and light-hearted in the sort of nature of the violence and nature of the villains. There was some pretty, they cut to some relatively sort of straight scenes here and there, which was pretty good. Certainly so it all becomes a kind of a manhunt type of thing where these people escape, and you're sort of following their progress, and you're following the FBI progress trying to catch these two outlandish criminals at Christmas, as you say, dressed as Christmas characters. Oh man, so there's some straight acting, but it seemed so tongue in cheek and so over the top.
See, I don't think. Look, I'm gonna caveat. I'm gonna caveat everything I'm about to say with this. If you look at 15 different pictures of 50 different artists, only some of those pictures are going to chime with you and some of them aren't. On top of that, I absolutely hate to shit on other people's endeavours. So, that's the caveat. But all that said, I really struggled with this, mate. The opening conceit after the bit I described, the dad leaves the cafe, he's driving across country along a snowy highway, and one of the psychos steps out onto the road, he swerves, crashes his car into a tree, gets out, runs away, the psycho catches him, and then the psycho drives an axe into his forehead to kill him. And that's the opening. And the problem that happens for me immediately is the police get there and say, drunk driving accident, right? And I'm like, look. And it takes an FBI person to come and turn up and look at it again and be like, I don't think this was a drink driving incident. And it's like, well, maybe that's because he had a massive fucking axe wound in the middle of his head that split his head open. And even if you thought he'd bumped his head on something in the car, they were like, I must have hit his head and crawled here. He's like 100 yards away, and there's nothing.
Oh, at least
there's nothing axe-shaped on a steering wheel. They're in fact pretty well designed not to cleave your forehead in twain. On top of that, right, 20 feet further away from where they find this clearly murdered cadaver, is like a huge, like, graffiti.
100 foot?
Oh, like 100 foot across graffiti made of blood in the snow that says, like, I don't know. I can't remember. Naughty, right?
It says naughty. Classic.
And it's like, come on.
Oh, man.
First of all, there wasn't enough blood in his body to do that. Even if you'd made an attempt to drain it, it's like, where are you supposed to have got that amount of blood from? Is he supposed to have dripped it off the end of his axe after he'd done one? Anyway,
it was very, very neatly. It was beautiful. Like, I mean, amazing work. The sort of rural police walk past an axe in a tree and still decide no misadventure.
Drunk driving.
Yeah, he must have chucked his axe when he crawled out of the
Looks
car.
like he's crawled out of the car half a mile and then hit himself in the head with his own axe.
Looks like he's trying to investigate this massive writing on the snow.
What's happened here then?
Yeah.
Oh, he's done himself a mischief, Gov. Hit himself in the head with his own axe. Classic this time of year.
Yeah, usual drunk drivers. It's Christmas.
I
It
mean,
made me so happy.
mate.
So many bits of this made me so happy.
I already know that most hope is lost by this point. So what I'm hoping for is that the kills are good. Because you can save a movie that struggles in other areas with excellent kills. And I've got to say, it had loads of kills in it. And I thought they were all
definitely.
flat.
I don't know, man. I think I maybe saw a light side of it or something that you didn't. I mean, I think the FBI, those guys played it so straight and so melodramatic that it felt like the whole movie was supposed to be straight. And so from that point, I was kind of looking at like, they're actually trying to make this movie and make us buy into this whole thing. But the villains were so Suicide Squad crazy, super villains. They just came across as so lighthearted. And if you look at it like that, I thought it wasn't too bad. I started playing the sort of cliche bingo board meeting of sort of evil Illuminati people all laughing about profits and all that sort of stuff. That was that was one of the best cliches.
It was a small town, like a proper little backwater town, and then somehow he ends up in some massive corporate downtown area in like a skyscraper with suits. And you're like, well, hang on, well, where's that? That had a severed penis thrown onto a table in front of a board meeting, which was quite fun. But nobody
That was one of my cliches.
Nobody did a double take on it. They all just looked at it and were like, oh, cock. It's like, really? That was your first?
Yeah, it's James's.
If somebody came in threw a cock on the table at a meeting where I work, I'm not sure my first thought would be like, that's a severed cock. I might think that, but my brain would also be thinking, it's not going to be a severed cock, mate. Don't go straight for that's a severed cock out loud. Maybe go, what's that?
You can ask somebody else.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
is that a sausage? But yeah,
I tell you, mate. Honestly, that was brilliant. That was great. The old cock.
That is the best. That was the best bit, and that wasn't a kill. Yeah.
Then you had the violent orderly. So, orderly in the old.
Oh yes! Oh my god, mate! I'd forgotten about that. That was.
I mean, that's 10 out of 10.
It was ridiculous. It was like watching Scooby Doo.
He's like the guy who's played that orderly in every film that's had that orderly.
For listeners, they turn up at an abandoned hospital. Like an abandoned hospital that the guy's cleaning, right? And then so they're grilling him about this particular hospital that he's at and that used to house this psycho. He's like, yeah, anything I can do to help, anything I can do at all. It's just me that looks after this old place, anything I can do to help. And they're like, can we have a look at the records? And he's like, no.
No, definitely not.
It's like, well, there's no one there but you, mate. And like, no one gives a shit about these fucking records. Just let them go and have a look. Yeah, it's the FBI. And you're a janitor at a place that's not even open anymore. Do you know what I mean? Who's just admitted to abusing the inmates when it was fucking open. You've also said...
Can we just go look at all those... No, I've locked them away. You better come back with a warrant.
Yeah, they go, can we have a look about? It's like, have you got a warrant? No. It's like, well then, no. It's like, but you just have to say yes, they can. They don't need a warrant if you just say yes, they can have a look around. You just said anything I could do to help. It's that kind of thing that kill.
I can't believe you didn't enjoy that. That was really, I loved it.
Oh.
You could you couldn't get scared. It was great. Then creepy priest, the classic creepy priest.
Yeah, I'd forgotten about him. He gets his comeuppance.
Here's my last of the favourite cliche bingos was the alcoholic ex-sheriff, Sheriff Exposition, who was there to kind of give some background
and you got the
and feedback.
wise talking city cops that came out to help him and stuff, didn't you? Oh,
yeah,
God.
That was good. There's so many amazing bits in it. I mean, it was worth every penny of my $5.99 or whatever it was I paid. Like,
well, look, I'm glad you
happy.
enjoyed it. I think we can wrap that one up by saying it's a recommendation from you. It's not a recommendation from me.
I quite like that my first recommendation on this podcast is that movie.
So, shall we see who's in the booth?
Tony, all the buttons are flashing and the dials are all spinning.
Right, lads. Right. Yeah. Been at. Sorry. What have I missed?
I don't know. We haven't been listening to it.
Yeah, mate. I don't know either, to be honest. I had a little sleep, had a little lie down,
I've just been watching the little flashing lights here.
playing with the lights. Yeah. Well, we're jet lagged, to be honest, Tony.
Oh, tired as hell, yeah.
Well, anyway, lads, welcome to Act 3. Thanks, Bruce. Thanks, Darren. I'm starting to think maybe you weren't the best booth guests this week, but nonetheless, here we are, Act 3.
Expanding the role in the booth, aren't they, these days? This feels like there's a bit of a growth in the market.
Bit more booth talk. Bit more booth
Yeah.
talk. And they really ought to be keeping that to their own podcast, which is actually called Booth Talk.
Booth talk, yeah, that's right. Bit of a rival. So.
It is a bit of a rival, and a lot of people call it BT.
Right, so listen, mate, I don't have a lot of time
Pitch
to...
time.
Yeah, because, listen, I know this is supposed to be your week.
Oh, yeah.
I want another go.
You want another
okay?
go? Yeah,
So
well, that's true, because you'd accidentally rewritten 28 Days Later last time, so...
there's a number of legal challenges. Some of them are not concluded yet, so I'd rather not comment on that.
Going
this
through the
time.
courts. I understand that entirely.
So, but listen, there's a lot to get through here. So, to be honest, I'd rather just crack straight in if that's okay and try and give this another go.
Yeah, please do.
So, husband and wife.
Yeah.
Wife's giving birth. That's where we open our story.
Classic protagonist setup. Instantly got some conflict going on. New joint.
Absolutely, a stressful
family.
time for all of
Yeah,
us, as
isn't
you
it?
well know. Yeah. Tragically, the baby dies. Now, the husband's aware of this. The wife's not. Okay.
Right.
The husband is then offered an opportunity by the hospital chaplain to replace the baby, which has sadly died, with another baby. And he takes that chance because he'll love that baby all the same, and his wife doesn't need to know, and it's a chance to continue the life that they'd planned. He rolls the dice, he takes that chance, and that's, it's a big turning point, but that's where he goes. As the baby grows up, we start to get a bit of an ill feeling about this child. Child's 5th birthday, the nanny starts acting very erratically, and she ends up killing herself to try and sort of show off to the child. She
Sounds
hangs
very
herself.
familiar. What's the child?
No, it's not. Listen, mate. This took me. Just let it go because it took
Right.
me a long time. So
Fabian? Is it
That's
called?
what they. Yeah, no, I was thinking. No, I did. That's the good. I hadn't actually pinned on a name of the child yet.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. I don't know
So
where. Similar. Anyway.
yeah. So okay, right. Well, let's keep that story moving. So we got we had this tragedy with the nanny. We've then got a priest comes to speak to the father and warns the father that there's something up about the child and something really sinister. He thinks the child is the Antichrist.
Fuck. Duck. Mate,
Let it sink in, mate.
I'm duck fucking on the idea, as I've just outlined. I'd like it. Obviously, anything Antichrist is always good.
Big themes, eh?
Big
Yeah.
themes, yeah. I fear it might stray a little close to. There's a film called The Omen. Might have to.
Come on, no, come on.
Yeah, no,
it's a child.
with the child.
is the
yeah,
Antichrist,
I know.
right?
Mm.
They've not done. That's not.
They
been
have done that. They have.
Get
And
me.
then they did it again with Good
Is that
Omens.
out? That's
yeah, that's
definitely
out. Yeah, it's pretty recent. It's within the last millennium. Good
They've
shout.
made loads of them. I just googled it. Oh, for fuck's sake. Listen, I'm going to workshop that one, but
Yeah.
we'll make a couple of minor legal changes. But
Yeah,
let's just put a pin in that one.
We're pretty close to it. But put a pin in it. And I tell you what, instead, why don't we have an interview with the director and co-stars of the new horror film It Cuts Deep? What does that
Nice.
sound like?
Yeah,
good to you?
okay.
Yeah, we ended up watching that recently, so that's a handy tie-in. But just for listeners, It Cuts Deep is a sort of horror comedy. Well, I would describe it as a psychodrama horror comedy. While on Christmas vacation, a young couple contemplate their future together. Ashley is interested in getting married and having kids, and Sam is terrified of that. They spending Christmas in a remote house together where Sam grew up, and Sam's former best friend Nolan enters the picture, and things start getting weird. So, without giving any spoilers away, that's what it's about. John, how did you like the movie?
Mate, it was really interesting actually because this is not something I would have picked up myself, obviously being non-horror guy. but I found myself pleasantly wrong-footed all the way through it. Made me quite nervous, quite kind of questioning of what was going on all the way through it, which was good. And I think when you started to ramp up into the horror elements of things, it played it really well. Like, it played the kind of ramping up of tension really well. It played the kind of change of mood really well. When you got into the horror, because it was horror comedy, it wasn't necessarily as dark as it could have been.
Yeah.
And then by the end of the movie, I felt quite relieved by the way the movie turned out, without kind of giving spoilers and bits and bobs. Very pleasantly surprised by it.
Well, that's
What
good.
about yourself? You're much more au fait with this stuff than I am.
Yeah,
so
well,
how did it
I
take
really
you?
enjoyed it. Well, first of all, it's a two-hander, right? So it literally is Charles Gould, who is an LA-based stand-up comedian, actually named Comic to Watch by Comedy Central, and recently named a new face of comedy at the Just for Laughs Comedy Festival in Montreal. He's also been on Jimmy Kimmel and such like. You can probably find him online. So it's Charles Gould and Quinn Jackson, who plays his wife, Ashley, and not wife, sorry, girlfriend.
Not wife, yeah.
Because that's part of the plot. Yeah, and I thought they were great. It's basically the two of them. There's a third character that comes into it, Charles's old best friend, seemingly, and he's fantastic as well.
Yeah, he was really good.
He's played by John Anderson. I mean, the three of them do an absolutely incredible job. The writing and the dialogue was really good too. It was quite light touch on the horror. I don't mean that in a derogatory way. I mean simply
No,
that
I think you're right, yeah.
perfectly suited the movie and the story.
Yeah.
I thought it was quite a witty film, I think, really, in the end.
I think there was a sort of awkward, quirky, kind of stilted conversation and stuff, and that sort of Britishy, cringy type of feel through it, which I thought was great.
Well worth a watch. It's out on video on demand from the 13th of November. So keep your eyes out for, depending on when you're listening to this, it's either coming out or out. It Cuts Deep. Charles Gould, Quinn Jackson, directed by Nicholas Payne Santos. And we interview the three of them in the upcoming interview, which is taking place instead of John's Fabian pitch. The Mormon.
The Mormon.
The Mormon. So enjoy the interview. Let us know what you think. Oh, and this is also John's inaugural interview. So welcome to the interview.
Well,
side
watch out for some blundering questions.
Tony? Thanks so much for joining.
How's it going?
Great.
Thanks for having us.
Oh, hey, no worries.
Hey,
No
no
worries. So, yeah, I feel like I'd be remiss not to ask how the mood is over there, given the current climate. I mean, are we optimistic? Charles, you look really optimistic about things.
He definitely can't hear you. He's making it.
Fair enough.
Yeah, definitely anxious but optimistic, I'd say.
The past few hours have been more optimistic. Last night was a disaster, and today...
Seems to be getting there, right? Yeah, he's pulling ahead a little bit by all accounts. Well, fingers crossed. I mean, I guess if it does go Trump's way, at least we'll have loads of more material for horror over the next 4 years. Charles, I don't know if you can hear us, but welcome to the call. Thanks for joining.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Well, look, we'll crack in. Firstly, I should say, really enjoyed the movie. It was just a really incredible psychodrama with this fantastic comedy horror edge. I kind of wanted to know then, I guess, Nicholas, where did that generate from, that idea? Because you wrote this as well as directed it, and where did that kind of idea generate from?
Yeah, so originally the idea came from, I was preparing to propose to my now wife, and
Congratulations.
Thanks. I got this deep fear of commitment, I guess I kind of felt, and I thought it was just perfect to kind of try to transform that into a horror movie, and ended up working out.
So that's a question, I guess, from me then. Sorry, Dave, to jump in the straight away as well. And the non-horror guy in this particular makeshift duo. So I was really interested in it. There's a lot of depth to the film without having to have the horror element in it. So I was interested as to, was it always horror? Was that seen from the outset and absolutely integral, or was it just a...
Yeah, it was always... I always saw it as a horror film, and I always kind of developed it as a horror film. But I always wanted to be able to, if you stripped away the genre elements, it could always be kind of a standalone movie. And one of the films I really have always loved and kind of looked to is Shaun of the Dead. And I always felt that if you just stripped away the zombies, it's still this kind of rom-com that stands on its own. So I really wanted this film to also be able to kind of stand on its own if you took out the psycho killer elements.
That's how it felt to me. All of that relationship stuff was already there, and it was all kind of balanced and had an arc to it without having any of the sort of big knives.
And yet they were
So,
big
yeah,
knives.
a lot of big knives.
That was all Quinn and I, by the way.
Was it you brought the knives?
No, Quinn and I we made the relationship that you're talking about that you love so much. Nick had almost nothing to do with that.
That was going to be my next question. So,
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, not at all. Like Charles and Quinn, what kind of, how did you get involved in this? What drew you to the parts?
Charles, I'll let you first.
Okay, thank you, Quinn.
Jen's
as you can see, look at this.
Exactly, natural.
Yeah, it stays through the chemistry. Nick, I knew Nick. I had known Nick for a while, even before we started filming. Nick, I did stand up with two of Nick's like college friends, and so he had come to my show a bunch, and we had talked, and we just really hit it off. And then 2 years before we even shot the movie, he was like, "Hey, do you want to star in my horror movie?" And I was just like, "Yeah, of course." And then when he sent me the script, I was like, "Amazing, great, this is funny. It's good for me. When do we start shooting?" It was really like a no-brainer from the beginning.
Awesome.
Yeah.
My story is completely different. I can't remember. I saw the audition on, I don't know if it's Backstage or Actors Access, whatever. I found it. I submitted, got an audition. The day of the audition, my grandmother went into hospital for appendicitis. I was with my mom. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going. I showed up. I didn't have my sides. You guys were a very welcoming room. Did the last scene. I think it's the last scene and the first scene, or the two that I did in the audition. Had a callback, read the script later, as sometimes things go. And to be honest, I was just drawn to the truth of the relationship between Sam and Ashley.
Yeah.
That's your name, right?
Yeah, Sam and Ashley. Yeah.
It's been a long time since we...
Yeah, well, I was going to ask, so presumably this was pre-COVID, this was filmed then, was it? Given that none of you were wearing masks in it?
Yeah, we shot in February of 2019.
Oh, okay.
So there was a little bit of a delay in the film coming out because of, we were supposed to originally start playing festivals in March, and then that all got delayed, and then, but luckily we then got in touch with Dark Sky Films, and they picked up the film and really jived with it. Yeah,
well, it's crazy times, right? If you've got a movie out and then this stuff happens, and then cinemas are all closed, it's like,
yeah, how long do you wait?
I can imagine that was a complete nightmare. But yeah, interestingly, Charles, you both actually touched on the kind of relationship. How much of the interplay was pure script, and how much of it were you allowed to? Obviously, you're a comedian, Charles, and that brings a certain element of potential improv. Was there any element of improv with the lines and building that relationship with you, Quinn?
Yeah, I would say there was some improvisation, but it all really came out of the script. I mean, it was really easy to improvise because of what was on the page. Like, the relationship was very clear. Sam.
Right.
Sam was just like very obvious as to who he was. And I think Quinn and I's kind of like chemistry and then our relationship, what we built on set made it super easy to like improvise a line or two here or there. So it was kind of like a very good combination of both scripted and then improvised stuff. But I think when people think of improv, they think of like just completely making things up off the top of your head, which wasn't really the case. Like, all the improv really came from what was written in the script.
Yeah.
I think also something that definitely came off the page and then was built in person was early on, Charles was like, but I'm just kind of being a dick. Like, why would this woman be with me? And I was like, because you're charming and you're funny, and because those things have to be alive. And I think that then played into, obviously, Charles's very wonderful comedic timing and me allowing the character and Quinn to let that in and live so that it became more real and three-dimensional as a relationship.
Yeah. I mean, that really came across. And, Quinn, you had to kind of move from perceiving, I guess, Sam from a sort of benign disappointment almost at the beginning to kind of outright horror by the end. So that's like, you have to take quite a journey. Was that a challenge for you to bring to the character? Or?
I think it was a fun challenge to bring to the character. I think, to be honest, there's enough beats written into the script that it makes sense at the point where I, as Ashley, go, hold on, what the fuck is going on? I'd say it's the pile up. It's kind of the snowball effect of the little things piling up so much that by the time that I'm ready to tell him about my secret and things are just so confusing, why couldn't it be that? Everything is so absurd already. Why couldn't it be? And to be honest, that was a very fun switch to play.
Yeah. Again, the parts you guys played were fantastic. And Nicholas, I was going to ask you a bit about that. How challenging was it really to actually write this into a script? Because you're writing it, but as the director, you're telling it as well. So you know everything that this story has to offer, and yet you've got to drip feed the audience to keep wrong-footing us with regards to, who's kind of the guilty party. Was that difficult to pull off? Like, did that take a long time to get that right?
I would say balancing the tone was definitely one of the hardest things kind of on set to perfect. But I think from the beginning, I had a strong sense of like, it should be funny, awkward, cringeworthy, scary, and try to constantly have all those elements kind of in each scene. And then on set, it was really just working with Charles and Quinn and finding the right tone that worked for everyone. And we do certain scenes at like certain different levels of dramatic, comedic, and then like totally bonkers. Right. And then it kind of allowed us in the edit to then kind of figure out exactly what level we wanted to go, especially since Charles goes pretty crazy at times.
Yeah, there were some times like very early on in the shoot so some of the crew hadn't read the script, and so on like the first day when Nick was like, okay, go totally bonkers, and I was going totally crazy, I could tell the crew was like, what is this movie? They actually looked like kind of scared. Like some of them were kind of like, what have I signed up for the next 2.5 weeks? Did I just make the biggest mistake of my life? And they did, because I killed them all.
Oh, well, fair enough.
I don't know where that came from. I apologize.
No.
It's unfortunately that's recorded though. There's a problem with that, legally speaking. Might have to cut that one, Dave.
Oh yeah, we'll protect your anonymity.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
One more thing on the relationship thing that I actually don't think I've ever even spoke to that Nick did so well as a director was you let us live out the scene, and that not all directors let you do that, and you gave us really the time to find it in the space, which I thought was, and you let us rehearse before, but you gave us takes of actually doing scenes from A to Z, and I think that's always so helpful.
Yeah, I always love playing out the whole scene and not trying to split it up too much. I also have a minimalist style in a way, so it works out.
Yeah, no, it was very cool. I guess one of the interesting things for me, and perhaps you kind of covered this, the kind of ambiguity around Nolan and how that offsets, Sam and Ashley. What was really interesting about the movie, which I've got to say doesn't really normally happen, was I found that at different times throughout the film, I'm on the side of each of the characters that's there. And yet also at different times, I'm against each of the characters that's there, which I think is incredibly hard to pull off. And I think part of that probably almost pivots on Nolan's character. Do you think that would be fair to say? And
yeah, totally. John was really great at playing the like charming. He's a little dumb, or maybe he's actually secretly
right,
just sabotaging everything. It's definitely based on like
I wonder why he was so good at playing dumb.
He's not here.
He's not here.
Hang on, big surprise. Just wait a minute. Who's on the call? No.
Sorry, Nick. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
I kind of forgot where I was going there.
Sorry. Oh, no. You probably had like a really cool answer, too.
Well, I mean, if it helps, I was asking about how the character of Nolan almost triggers the way that the audience changes their perception of the other characters, and whether or not that was kind of how you'd meant it to play out, if that makes sense.
Yeah, totally. Because Sam and Charles, like Charles's character is constantly kind of an unreliable narrator through it. So, like, in a way, when you're seeing Nolan be threatening or it seems like he's up to something else, it was always supposed to be like, Sam kind of
through his lens, like that. Yeah, That took me quite a while to pick that up, to be honest. And when it got towards the climax of the film and it all started to make a bit more sense, it was quite a relief for me to see that, because it's such an unsettling thing all the way through, the kind of, that narrative changing everything. These things start to crystallize, I guess, a bit towards the end. And I found it was quite relaxing to see, okay, a lot of the stuff we've seen is obviously just one person's perspective, and yeah.
Yeah, so that's why, especially in the when Sam kills Nolan at the end, I really wanted that big scene where you actually, Nolan actually says what his whole intentions have been throughout the whole movie, and you actually understand that he was just trying to reconcile their friendship.
Yeah. No, that was a great scene. It made that punch happen when you're like, oh shit, it really is.
That way, right.
It's when it coalesces. So did I hear right? Did you guys say that this was like a 2-week shoot?
Yeah, it was a very fast 2-week shoot. I'd worked with a bunch of the crew before, especially the DP Kyle Kelly. So we were good at we kind of know each other and we know what shots we're gonna do. So we were able to move super fast. Also, the budget was pretty small, so we kind of were forced to go fast, but I think it worked out.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And what about you guys, Charles and Quinn? Did you guys have a good time on set? Did you find it kind of a pressurized 2 weeks, or? I mean, there's a lot riding on both of you, I guess, right?
I didn't feel that there was a lot of pressure. I feel like Charles and I equated to kind of being at summer camp for 2 weeks. It was really fun. We had movie nights where we watched some of the films that inspired Nick, at least in terms of tone. We watched The Shining. I think we watched Shaun of the Dead. We watched Friday the 13th, every night. And then Charles and I lived in a little house together, so we got to play house.
Nice.
We got in a fight.
And yes, we did get it.
How good is his cooking compared to Sam's cooking? Was it?
No, we didn't cook.
One time I made her a piece of toast with peanut butter, and she smushed it in my face. She said, "I don't eat carbs." Then she smushed it in my face and called me a bitch. Sorry, can I say that?
Yeah, you can say literally anything you want. Yeah.
Okay.
There's loads of other stuff you can say as well. Yeah.
But yeah, I agree with Quinn. It was really fun, and also we actually didn't ever really go over 10-hour days either. I think probably because there wasn't the budget to pay overtime. But it was really easy and it was really fun. It was great.
How was the kind of climactic scene? I mean, that was an amazing one-liner for Quinn. That's nice, and then the stab. Was that fun to stab Charles in the neck?
Yes. So I'll tell that story. So we had some special effects guys up there for, I feel like it was 48 hours, Nick. Is that right? Or 24?
They're up there for like 2 or 3 days.
2 or 3 days. And I guess we had enough blood in the spray can for 2 times. So they were like, before you do the first one, we're just going to it's going to be a sprinkle. It wasn't. What you saw in the movie was the first take. And, just out of sheer shock and pause, I feel like I held that moment like it was the last moment that I was ever going to have in a cinematic movie. I don't know, but that was super fun. Those moments were fun. I find being chased and fighting to be as stressful as chasing and fighting would be in real life.
Got easy to get into the moment then.
But fun to do in retrospect. I mean, Charles chasing me to that car, I hated that every time we did it because he would always almost, if not, catch me. And
yeah.
Was that fun for you, Charles, to be able to go kind of crazy?
Yeah, that was fun for me. The scenes where I got to go crazy were really fun, and I really look forward to them. The scenes where I got killed and there was blood were really fun to shoot, but the scenes where I had to do real acting were horrifying, and I hated them. And once they were cut on any scene where I had to do real acting, I was like, thank God, because John and Quinn are very, very good actors, and I'm an actor and I'm good. I'm a comedian. I'm not as good at actors as them. So
it's interesting that so much of that character seemed right in your kind of wheelhouse as to how you appear on stage. What I've seen online. So Nick, was that written with Charles in mind? Because it seemed to be just fit quite perfectly with your delivery, Charles.
Yeah, we kind of have a similar sense of humor, so it really worked out. I wrote it to basically my sense of humor, but when I was thinking about who could play the part, Charles was the first person that came to mind, and yeah.
Cool. Well, I had this web series No, that's good. I've never heard that before, so thank you. Well, I had like a web series where it was very cringy. I would say the comedy was like a little cringe, but you kind of felt for the main character because he was just kind of like this guy who sits in a coffee shop and he tries to like make friends with people. And each episode was him like failing to either make friends or ask someone out on a date or like order a croissant. And I do think now that like it does kind of align with Sam's character in a really kind of like interesting way.
I was a big fan of Charles, by the way. So
yes, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're all big fans, just to make sure that that's clear.
See, now that felt sarcastic, but
No, that's just my British accent. It's sort of imbued with a sort of dry, droll cynicism.
So can I ask you guys a question?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No. It seems like British people have been responding to this film the best.
Oh yeah.
Why do you think that is?
It's that awkward cringiness. That's perfect.
Right.
It's,
Okay.
it's like the UK office
Well, yeah.
stuff. That's what I would think. That chimes.
Yeah, I think that's probably true. I think there's a neuroses around the British sense of humour that I think probably chimes quite closely with the sort of humour that's in this movie.
Most of our conversations are somewhere like Sam's conversations. That's pretty much the whole country.
Yeah. And, like, it depends what people want out of a horror film, I think sometimes you find people want some sort of gore fest or whatever, some of which are absolutely fantastic, but nonetheless, some people think of horror kind of as that, rather than a nice broad spectrum of stuff.
Right.
Yeah,
And
well, I'm the
say-
non-horror guy, and I enjoyed it and felt completely wrong-footed the whole way. Yeah, it definitely has a wider appeal than just people waiting for the knives.
Right. Yeah, and the British Office, when I saw the British Office for the first time, I was like, holy shit, this is the best thing I've ever seen in my life. I had like no idea. I actually had a roommate in college who was an exchange student from England. And he was like, you would probably really like this show. And then he showed me the British Office, and I was like, I had no idea that comedy could be like that. And I was like, it was a huge inspiration for me and my sense of humor, actually. So it's funny that you mentioned that.
That cringe to the nth degree, that right to the end of what you can keep watching.
Right, exactly, yeah.
Yeah. There's a very grounded, real, kind of acerbic element to it. And yeah, perhaps again, that's sort of more part of the British sense of humour. But who knows? I mean, we're a bunch of dicks, really. So, don't trust our opinions on anything.
Oh, well, we're over here in America. We're the best. So we have no problems here.
Hey,
We have no one here. Okay, sorry.
Sorry,
Can
John.
I ask? I really wanted just to know. I'm an idiot, so I'm just interested in sort of how much of the stuff in those sort of scenes between Nolan and Sam was all in Sam's head, Nick, and how much of it was Nolan still a bit of a dick?
He's definitely a bit of a dick. It seems mean to say, but I have like a couple of friends from home who like sometimes mean well, but drive me a little crazy with their constant incessantness. So I was a little bit basing, like, I took that kind of character and tried to push it as far as possible, and as annoying as possible. There are the moments where like he winks at Sam. Obviously the moments when they're having sex in front of the Christmas tree. So there's like a few of those moments that are like very extreme, like Sam jealousy daydream and what he's picturing, kind of what's the worst case scenario.
Yeah, so that was interesting. Is that sort of blend between what's clearly in his head, but then it's just interesting to see that obviously I took a lot of that from face value initially, but then when you reflect on the film from after watching it, you think actually how much of that was just through that lens and was just from one person's point of view.
I'm a big fan of unreliable narrators. And I think when me and Charles really discussed a lot of it, I tried to take away the fact that he is a psycho killer and try to make him approach, I don't know, Charles, we want to talk about how, I was like, don't think of it as you're about to kill this person, but you're going to break up with them.
Yes, yeah. Yeah, those were notes that Nick would give me before we'd shoot scenes. He'd be like, you're not about to murder Ashley. You're just going to like let her down really gently. And I would be like, okay, cool. Yeah. Or, you're going to like break up with her, but you feel bad that you have to break up with her. So you'll probably figure out that, you have to like do it in a really extreme way. I don't know if you got that, Quinn.
Yeah, I picked up on that.
Yeah.
Nicholas, this is your obviously you've done a lot of shorts and stuff. Well, a lot of stuff actually prior to this, but this is your first full-length feature. Was it difficult to get that funded? Did you have connections, or how did you pay for it?
So yeah, originally I had written the scripts under the idea that if I could get funding, I could shoot a bigger version of it, or if the funding fell out, then I could shoot a small version of it. And the funding ended up, I had a company that was interested, and the funding eventually fell through. And then I was just like, fuck it, I'm going to shoot it anyways. And then just through private sources, I was able to kind of cobble together a micro budget, just enough to shoot for 2 weeks.
Nice.
Didn't feel like it was missing anything. None of the scenes felt like they were kind of pared back at all. So it's interesting. Like, what would you have done? Was it just more blood, bigger knives?
Yeah, maybe some bigger set pieces. Maybe one or two other scenes. I don't know. I agree though. Now when I watch it, it feels like there's nothing I could actually add to it. So
More famous lead actor.
Never.
You guys stay, and then you get the more famous supporting actors in. You know, cameo roles. You know, in the
You
cast.
just get Matt Damon walking past in the background.
Yeah.
Right. Yes.
I'd be remiss not to ask you guys what's coming next. Obviously, this has been, I guess, a while then from shoot to now. Has there been much going on in the interim? What can we expect from each of you next? Where are we going? Hopefully, you'll all say more horror.
You don't have to.
I got a comedy feature I'm trying to push, as well as a straight horror feature as well. So I'm hoping to get one of those off the ground in early 2021, but we'll see.
COVID pending. You'll have to film it all over Zoom,
COVID
I guess.
pending.
Yeah. Charles, Quinn, are you guys got... I mean, obviously it sucks for anyone in the performing
I'm in school.
arts.
I'm getting my graduate degree, so graduating in 2023. I filmed a movie at the very beginning of 2020 in January. So we'll see. We were supposed to do pickups in March. Obviously, that didn't happen. So let's see. That is in the can for now, but it'll be brought out soon enough.
And we'll look out for
It's
that.
a good time to be in stand-up, Charles, isn't it? So that must be
Well,
exciting
stand-up's
times
fine.
for you.
Stand-up's over. I'll never do stand-up again. That's my prediction. I'm really working on a vaccine for coronavirus. I got a mixture in my bathtub. No, I have a digital series with Comedy Central, which I'm hoping to shoot either in December or early 2021. And I was supposed to shoot a movie in April with Billy Eichner, but obviously that got pushed until April 2021, they told me. So I'm hoping that movie comes through. Billy Eichner wrote and is starring in a rom-com, and I was going to play like one of his friends. So fingers crossed on that one.
Oh, that's awesome. That sounds great. And look, fingers crossed, I hear tell on the grapevine that they might actually have a vaccine by around Christmas. So you never know. Maybe the performing arts will actually come back in 2021 and they won't be completely decimated. But look, I just wanted to say thank you so much for jumping on the call with us and for joining us on the podcast. Genuinely loved the movie, and I wish you all the best with it. We use a lot of subliminal messaging, so we'll really go heavy on that.
That's already out there. Yeah.
As I say, guys, congrats and thanks again for sharing your time with us.
Yeah, great film. Thanks, guys.
Thanks so much for having us.
Thank you both.
Hey,
Stay
no
safe.
worries. Yeah, stay safe. Don't die of
Oh
COVID,
yeah.
everybody.
Good luck with the
Yes.
downfall
Or
of
like
democracy.
try not to die. Okay.
Right.
See you guys.
See you guys.
Thanks
Cheers, guys.
again. Alright, fellas, that was the interview. Darren, Bruce, want to say anything?
Nah, mate.
Yeah, no, mate, I'm alright, actually.
RPL's on.
Yeah, what's that? What's it?
IPL.
I'm not understanding that at all.
It's cricket, mate.
Well, oh, right, how's that? Was it? No. How's it? No.
Indian Premier League.
Indian Premier League. right.
Cricket.
Cricket, yeah. Alright. Okay, look, I don't know what's going on. Yeah, alright, lads. I don't know what the fuck that's about. Over to you. John, Dave, get sorted. Sort this out. Fucking hell.
I tell you what, mate.
Wow.
They need to stop letting that booth open. I think we just need to go back
look,
to
I think Tony's had
a
a
one-person booth.
mare this week. He's let two folk in, which he's not done before, in fairness. Tony's trying to manage a two-guest booth, and, he's got all of the sound to do,
I mean, I don't even know what our levels are like, Dave. I mean, this could be absolute chaos.
Yeah, absolutely. He's editing the live video feed, which obviously goes out to all the oil rigs. We're on live on all the rigs. Rigcast.
Rigs TV.
Yeah, Rigs TV cast. We look, it won't mean much for you guys, but obviously all the riggers listening will know. Shout out to the riggers. Whee! They'll know what it means. But look, anyway, enough about Tony and that fucking mess. Thanks again to Nicholas Payne Santos, Charles Gould, and Quinn Jackson for giving us their
Yeah,
time.
I appreciate the time. That was great. Thank you very much.
Yeah, and also a really great movie. So do give that a look. Go and have a look.
Yeah, well worth your time.
If whether you're a horror or a non-horror person, you'll get a lot out of it. It's a tight piece of.
It's got the old double stamp, mate. It's got the horror, non-horror double
That's
stamp
true.
of LMAHM. That's
it's got
pretty,
the
not
it's got the HNH double stamp. The hin.
It's the much coveted.
That's gonna be a thing now. So yeah, It Cuts Deep has got the official LMAHMpod. And so that's.
I think we're gonna come up with
Put that
something.
on the poster. Put that on the poster.
That's just a working title. That double stamp. We'll come up with something better. I'd rather call it a double stamp.
Yeah, fair enough. It's the first time we've ever introduced just a sound as a sort of recommendation, rather than any kind of words.
Quite an awkward sounding sound.
It's good though. No one
Not
else
even a
has got
punchy
that.
sound.
No one else has got that. Sets us apart, John.
Incoherent sound.
Yeah.
Wow, I'll give you that. Yeah.
Thanks very much, John, for joining us as always.
Cheers, mate. Well, I'm sure OJ will be back next week, mate. Once he's got his chain forged, that'll be all good.
Yeah. Once he's learned to sew. Thanks again to Nicholas Payne Santos, Charles Gould, and Quinn Jackson, the director, writer, and cast of It Cuts Deep. Check that out now on video on demand. Give it a watch. Absolutely rent it, buy it, whatever. It's great. And yeah, as I say, next month we'll be back with another pitch or more. So we'll see you then. So stay safe,
Cheers.
Stay alive, those of you that are worth it, and don't get COVID. Let's make a horror movie, John. Everyone, you can't
Nothing.
wave. He's waving, folks. Waving's no use.
I don't like saying bye. I don't like
yeah,
goodbyes.
yeah.
You say goodbye. You do
All
the
right,
bit,
all
and
right.
I'll just move away from the microphone.
Let's make a horror movie, everybody. Sure.